All right, everyone. Thank you so much to those of us who are joining us live. I hope you're having a fantastic Friday. For those of us who are listening on YouTube, I hope you're having a wonderful day, whatever day of the week it may be. Today's topic is about land banking in Belize. And this is a conversation that I am excited to have with you because it is a topic that a lot of folks have brought up and have mentioned interest in. Especially because when you're thinking about long-term investment strategies, how can you diversify your assets? How can you do different strategies to make your portfolio more robust? This is one topic that everyone keeps coming back to, and especially because Belize hasn't really plateaued yet when it comes to investments, right? When it comes to prices. Here we've seen that just the average person is just starting to learn about Belize. We call it more of the mainstream travelers, people who are discovering the country, whether it's through an advertisement or typically it's through other friends or people who've been down here. They say, you know, you've really got to check out Belize. And as airlines start to become more frequent here, coming in from different destinations, we do expect that this country will become more popular. It's not easy necessarily to get to Belize from all over the world. Right now, flights are primarily from North America. So we are missing out on a European market. But just imagine when that direct flight comes in from Europe, comes in from England or wherever, we're going to be seeing a whole different demographic of people coming to the country and really opening the doors to that part of the world. So I'd say Belize is still young in the sense where it hasn't plateaued, it hasn't peaked. It's not Cancun. And, I do hope it never really does become Cancun, but it has ways for it to grow on its own and for investors to be doing well from it. So, with that being said, we're going to just jump right in here and really explore the topic about what is land banking. So if you're new to this strategy, it is a buy and hold investment strategy. So you buy land today, you own land today, you hold on to it for however long the term is that you want to be holding on to it, whether it's 5, 10, 15, 20 years, forever. Maybe you want to pass it down to grandkids or great grandkids or whatever the strategy is. And because Belize really hasn't plateaued, you're still able to get in and own real estate now, not as inexpensive as some people may think, but still more inexpensive than what it's going to be 10, 15, 20 years from now. And we can just see from the past numbers how numbers really have increased. And I do have a couple of examples for you throughout the presentation here. But the real goal is here is to buy low and sell high, right? Buy low. And again, it's not going to be low like it was 5, 10, 20 years ago, but it's also going to be not this low again, right? Especially when we compare it to what it could be in 10, 15, 20 years. And the advantages in Belize specifically, there are a couple of them. Specifically, Ambergris Caye is where we're going to talk about today. Ambergris Caye, there's a finite bit of land, and it's like that everywhere in the world. There's just a little bit of land and a lot of ocean out there. So the more land you can hold on to, that's what everyone likes. Land has that ability for us to hedge against inflation. And so when you own land, you're able to hold on to it and then 5, 10, 15, 20 years, whatever it is, sell it at an attractive price. And in Belize, there is low property tax. And this is really advantageous for a buy and hold investor. And what I mean by low is a couple of the examples I'm going to show you. Property taxes, 45 US dollars a year, 45 US dollars a year. And no, I'm not forgetting any zeros on that. I'm not pricing it in some arbitrary currency. It's 45 US dollars a year. And so when you're thinking that long-term strategy, especially if you're in the States where, let's say the Northeast, where you're having very expensive property taxes, or California, you really have to get another job to be able to pay for those property taxes. Here, you can just take some money out of, maybe a birthday card or something like that, and have that go towards the property tax. In addition to that, and I don't have this on the screen, but there's no capital gains tax in Belize. This is really advantageous for people who are coming and investing here. So let's say today you buy a piece of land for $150,000, you sell it in 10 years for $200,000 or $250,000. You don't pay a capital gains tax on that $50,000 or $100,000 gain here in Belize. Now, in your home country, you'll probably have some obligations. Definitely talk to your accountant or your CPA in your home country to understand what that would be. But in Belize, you're not going to be charged tax. You're not going to be charged a capital gains tax. So that is a huge, huge advantage for us investors. Personally, I've invested throughout Central America, and I just sold some property in Panama. And there is, of course, capital gains tax there. And unfortunately, but fortunately, I've made money on it, so I have to pay capital gains. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, if I just bought that land in Belize instead, then I wouldn't have to have that tax bill to Panama. But, it's the reality of what the situation is. So continuing on here are a few considerations for you to bear in mind as you're looking at land banking. One of them is, what is your ideal timeline to hold this property? And, really, what is your ideal timeline? Because that's also going to indicate where on the island or where in the country you end up investing. If you have a longer timeline or a longer horizon where you say, you know, I'm going to just hold on to it now. And, you know, when I'm 70 years old or 80 years old and liquidate it and then have some extra funds, whatever your situation or scenario is, you really need to understand that, because you may not want to be so far out if you are looking to sell something sooner rather than later. If you do have plenty of time, you know, then you can be looking at places that, you know, don't necessarily have utilities right now or aren't accessible, because over time, there is the assumption that those sort of utilities will go in. But do understand what makes this property unique. And I've mentioned this before in sessions, but you really need to know what makes your property different than other properties. And in Belize, I can tell you specifically on Ambergris Caye, and this is probably true everywhere in the world, waterfront properties are premium, right? Waterfront properties, if you're able to get in on the waterfront properties to buy and hold, you will not be losing any money. Of course, nothing in life is guaranteed, but you will likely not be losing any money on that investment when you decide to sell down the line. Now, if you're within a community or you're within an area where there are thousands of other parcels that are just like the one that you're purchasing, understand that down the line when you want to sell, there's going to be a lot more competition. So you may have to do something like lower the price or offer attractive financing or be willing to wait a longer period of time to get that property sold. So it's really important that you're thinking about that. Number 3 is, are there any proposed investments coming to this area to increase the value of the land? In Belize, this is something important to consider, but this is not something I would recommend that you base your investment on. The number of times I've heard people say, oh, I'm buying over here because they're going to be building an airport. You know, I've been hearing about this darn airport for the last decade and a half here in Belize. So until it actually is starting, I'm not going to believe it. And, you know, I've heard now multiple times that the airport, this international airport, is going in some different location on the island. So, you know what, if it comes, fantastic, but really be smart and realistic with yourself. A lot of times, if there is no, or if there are no utilities or if there is no public road, that's something that an investor typically has to put in themselves. It's not something that the government is coming in and rushing to do for you. So, you know, if you're able to hold on to property, let's say there's no development that's going on in the certain area that you're looking and you're hoping to have this for 5 years, you know, do you see the trajectory of movement going towards that property, right? And look historically, how long has it taken for other new areas to develop and grow legs? And those are, you know, questions that you'll dig deeper into as you're working with your real estate agent, because I wouldn't necessarily expect you to know those right away. And coming into Belize for the first or even the 10th time, you may not know that information, but that's why you work with a real estate agent, to be able to talk about the history of this place. And then number 4 there is really, you know, be real with yourself. Is this an investment or is this a future property for you to build on? I've had a couple of clients who really just kind of been crossing their thoughts on this. You know, initially like, well, we want to buy now and maybe we'll sell it later. Maybe we want to build a home on it. So they're getting a little bit too intimate with the location, right? They want to be in a very specific spot, but they're looking at it as a land banking opportunity. Now, that's not a bad idea if you know the area that you want to be in, right? And you've been to the island before, and you say, yep, I think this area is growing. But, you know, take the emotional aspect out of it. Don't necessarily land bank somewhere that it's only because you like it, right? There are a lot of reasons to pick up property that may or may not be where you personally enjoy being. So, you know, that's one that for me personally, it's one of the most difficult things I have to remember to do, because I, you know, tend to like certain properties and some people may not. And so I'm basing my decision on that instead of always looking at the facts. So it's a humbling point that I put there, but one that really is important, because once you take that emotional piece out of it, you're able to look at the practicality of it and see if it really is a good investment. So there are a couple of locations on the island. This is again specifically Ambergris Caye that I want to share with you. And we're really focusing on areas that are unique and different within the country. And this one on Ambergris Caye is really focused around the fly fishing area. So Ambergris Caye is popular for its diving, its fishing, its snorkeling. If you can follow my cursor where you see these red dots and you see the difference in blue colors, that's where the barrier reef is. So because the barrier reef is there, we have an incredible array of marine life. And so it draws a lot of people to this island. So this island in itself is a unique destination, right? Compared to the rest of the country. You can go to coastal Belize, right? Go to mainland coastal Belize, but you're an hour and a half, 2 hours away from the reef, depending where in the country you are. So this automatically, having the reef within 2 minutes from the coastline here is a huge unique factor within this island itself. But as we dig deeper into the island, where is it that we want to be? Now, I'm going to talk very generally for a second, and then I'm going to get into the specifics. If you're somebody who's looking to land bank for 10, 15, 20 years, I would even recommend going up here to the northern part of the island, Palm Bay, Coconut Grove, Rocky Point. Up there, you will find some beachfront opportunities for $80 to $100, $110,000. But note that there's no road access up there. Note that there's no public utility no public road access to all of this part up here. You can get to some of it, but not all of it as you continue north. There's no public utilities up there, no water, electricity. And so I see the people who are looking in this part, looking for that 80, 90, 100, $110,000 beachfront parcel is somebody who is planning to have a long hold for their property, right? So if you're looking at 10, 15, I would even say 30-year time horizon, this is probably one of the best areas that you can be. If you're somebody who's more on the shorter scale, like 5, 10, 15, 20 years, then these two that I talk about today, I think are going to be up your alley. But again, just focusing on the uniqueness. So what makes a certain areas unique? Well, the two areas that we're going to be highlighting today are Tarpon Bay and then also Bracelet Key. And these are two very popular areas when it comes to fly fishing. Fly fishing is huge here. There's the Grand Slam, the bonefish, the tarpon, and the permit. And there's one area that we have highlighted here where you're able to find all three. That's the Bracelet Key area. So you can imagine from a fly fishing perspective, maybe from a potential developer who would own an eco lodge or own a fly fishing lodge. Imagine being able to go from your lodge to the flats in 3 minutes, right? That is a huge selling point that you don't find all across the island. Going down over here to Tarpon Bay, that's going to be the other area that we talk about. You have permit and bonefish there. And you do have baby tarpons over there as well. But being able to go from your home, let's say you had a dock onto your home or to your home to the flats in just a couple of minutes, and being able to access the permit and the bonefish are huge. And when I say, you can get there, it's not necessarily you may be the land banker, but the future investor, that future owner. These are things that are really important, especially in the fly fishing community, is being able to have that quick and easy access. So we're going to talk about Bracelet and Tarpon Bay today. And if you have any questions, feel free to type those into the chat section or the Q&A section for those who are live. For those who are not live, feel free to reach out to me, info@Luna Realty Belize, or you're also able to comment there in the comment section of YouTube. So the first area that we're going to talk about is a growing area called Tarpon Bay. And I'm actually going to go back to the map again for a moment. Tarpon Bay is about 4.5 miles south of town. Follow my cursor. Here is the San Pedro downtown area. You go south about 4.5 miles to this area over here. Because Ambergris Caye and San Pedro specifically has been growing at such a rapid pace, there's been a lot more development north and more development south of San Pedro town. That's where you're seeing a lot more of the development going. San Pedro gets a little chaotic. It gets a little crazy sometimes with all the golf carts and tourists and whatnot. So you do tend to find that people migrate north and south of the primary town if they want to be in an area that's a little bit quieter. So Tarpon Bay, follow my cursor, is in this area right over here. And someone said to me the other day, and I thought this was a brilliant way of saying it, that Tarpon Bay really is a diamond in the rough. And, I think that diamond in the rough is starting to get shined up a little bit, though, because there's a lot of new construction that's happening in this area. Nice, new, modern homes that are going up. And there's some unique homes over there, too. But you're really able to find this I can see it in the next 5-10 years being more of an upscale area, on the southern part of the island. People have their space and people are able to just look directly out in the bay and see the sunset. So in this area already, there is an adult-only hotel called Playa de Sala. I have a couple pictures there for you to see it, but I also wanted for you to see some more pictures. You can see on the right picture of the bay side over there. This, because of the location, you also have really incredible sunset views from this specific spot. So you have access to the lagoon. You can see over here, it's not the Caribbean side, it's not the reef side, rather. This is salt water. But you are looking over on the west side of the island. So there is new construction that's happening here. Every time I go down, I'm just impressed to see another home going up. And so I do think that this is a great opportunity for people who are looking to land bank and sell rather in the near future, 5, 10, 15 years. So we have 3 lots in Tarpon Bay that I want to highlight to you. And you can see here from an aerial perspective, we were on the plane the other day and I said, oh, there's Tarpon Bay. Let's grab some pictures. So you can see here just from an aerial perspective of what the Tarpon Bay area looks like. So you can see it's not totally developed right now, but it is certainly an up and coming area. And again, when you're land banking, you don't necessarily want to find something that is totally developed. You want to be thinking outside the box a little bit. So there is a second row home site going for 135, a lagoon front home site going for 235, and then another lagoon front lot going for 185. There's no electricity at option number 3 here, but there is for option number 1 and number 2. So that's why you will find that the price there is a bit lower. So coming back to these 3 opportunities and looking a little bit more at the specifics. So number 1, so we're going to be starting over here. This is number 1. Sorry, I didn't put the number there, but number 1, this is the second row lot. This is home. This is right next to a brand new home that is currently under contract. It's a really beautiful, actually go back to it. So I have a picture here. It's this home right over here. So it's right next to this home. So you have a beautiful neighbor there. But going back to the details, the slot here is 511 square meters, so 0.126 acres. Let's jump to the next waterfront opportunity at 235. This one, and you can see it's larger in size, it's about 0.10 acres larger than the second row and then the following third row there. So I think this is a real deal at 235, where you're getting just a lot more space, and you also do have electricity here. And then waterfront, again, if you're willing to hold on for a little bit, like the whole purpose of land banking, then when electricity comes here, right, you can bump up the price more because there's more value to the land. All of the Tarpon Bay lots that you see here are accessible by golf cart. So you are able to get there very easily. It takes about 20 minutes from the heart of the downtown area, but we will start to see this area grow, and we already have. So here's a comp of a property that's for sale right now. This is in the Tres Cocos area. This is right over the bridge. This is that popular area I talk about that I referred to as Beverly Hills before. But you can see here, this is 0.17 acres going for 279. It has road access and it has public electricity. So when we compare this one to option number 2 here for 235, which is even larger in size, right? This is also short-term land banking, where as this area grows, develops more, you will be able to have price tags like 279 in the future. So again, looking at the comps, understanding what's going on in the market. All right, continuing on over here, we're going to explore the second option of this conversation, which is Bracelet Key. So Bracelet Key, follow my cursor, is on the northwestern side of Ambergris. It's about 10, 11 miles north of the downtown area. If you are familiar with Sapphire Beach, it's located west of Sapphire Beach Resort, so fairly easy to get to. But this area is only accessible at this point by boat. So do bear that in mind. This is for somebody who's thinking about land banking, in I'd say 10 to 30 year land banking, because I think that the opportunities here for waterfront property is just incredible right now. And there's a reason that it's priced at the pricing that it is because it's only accessible by boat and whatnot. But I do think that this is an awesome one to hold on to. So what's really neat about this area over here is the fly fishing. And we talked about that a couple of minutes ago. It's the Grand Slam. So you're able to get all 3 of those fish there in that area. Bracelet Key. So the flats right out here, right out in front of the property. And then also the Ambergris Caye Lagoon. This is incredible in here. I had the chance to go through the other day by boat, went in, and you can see lobster running around on the ground of the lagoon. And there's just tons of marine life. It's teeming with marine life. And it's really neat to see. So typically when people are coming in for the fly fishing, there's a little fly fishing lodge, right over here, follow my cursor. And that's really all that's up here in this area. So tons of potential that I think down the line will become a lot more popular. It's nice because it's also on the west side of the island. And just like Tarpon Bay, follow my cursor, it's down over here. It is on the west side, so there is no seagrass. Seagrass or sargassum is seasonal. Our seagrass season has started here. So for those of you who are on the west side of the island, nice advantage is you don't have the seagrass that gets washed up here to our east side. Just a part of living in the Caribbean, and it's something that is being dealt with here in Belize, but also across the Caribbean. It's also really quite nice. It's shallow, clear waters, which I'll show you in a moment, a few miles from Secret Beach. And I mentioned to you right now, it's only accessible by boat. It's about 45 minutes from San Pedro by boat. And like I mentioned, it's a prime fly fishing location. Note that it is off grid, so there are no public utilities up here. But do note that there is the potential that it could come in the future, or if not, then you always have water catchment systems, cistern, solar way to be able to make it work otherwise. So this is Bracelet Key altogether, and then Fisherman's Cove, specifically the opportunity that we're talking about, follow my cursors right here on that bend. So there's a channel over here where the flats are incredible. And this is where you're able to do that fly fishing. And so just to give you a little view of what it looks like in the area, especially for those of you who haven't come down, it just helps to see it a little bit more, but that is on the way over to the Bracelet property. Really beautiful waters. Even though it's not on the reef side, we do have really pretty waters over there. I mentioned to you that it's shallow and you can just walk out and have it be up to your knees, and certain areas go up to your hips, but it's a great area. Like I've mentioned, that is there for land banking. And so here you can see in the Fisherman's Cove area, there are 20 lots in total. One of them at this point is claimed. And this is if you're looking for the waterfront property, like buy and hold waterfront. I think you can never go wrong with buying and holding waterfront property. But you're able to see that here, and then Secret Beach down the line as well, just a few miles away. And then the Ambergris Lagoon that I mentioned to you is, follow my cursor, right over here. So you're able just to get from Bracelet Key over to the lagoon in just a matter of minutes. And here's just, I can send these details to anyone if they're interested in them specifically, but they are starting at $45,000 for a second row lot. And I'm going to just point out the second row lots. That's these here. So even lot number 20, that would be an awesome opportunity for investment, I think, because you're still getting water view, right? You're not going to have anything blocking that water view since there's an easement going out to the water and to the beach area over there. That would be my best suggestion if you're looking for one of the most affordable options. Otherwise, if you're looking for something that is directly on the water, which would be a great idea. You can even do number 15 over here. That one's a little bit of an unusual shape, or one that would be closer here to the beach. Or if you have the opportunity to do so, I would even pick up a handful of these, because from there you can then later on down the line sell them to a potential fly fishing lodge or somebody who's looking to do something with multiple parcels. And so a comp that we have here is Secret Beach. Just remember that this property is just a couple miles north of Secret Beach. So this is a lot that just came on the market for 0.3. It's 0.34 acres, so a little bit larger than the Bracelet ones, but it's going for $499. This one does have road access, but there is no electricity in this area. So this one is off grid. And so you can see, even if Bracelet doesn't get the utilities, but you do have, an easier way to get there, and more transportation that's going up there, or maybe it's not easier, maybe it's exclusive for a reason, and you have that exclusivity feel of the property, and then you're able to do quite well with it. So with that, that's just a really high level overview of a couple of opportunities. I'd highly recommend that you reach out for more information. There's a ton of opportunities out there. I think these are some of the best ones for the average investor. I say average, somebody who doesn't necessarily have millions of dollars to spend on land banking, but wants to get their feet wet. For those of you who do have millions of dollars to spend, I do have some really great opportunities, 3 really great opportunities that are just coming on the market for larger acreage. One is just north of the bridge. So it's on paved roads. It's 6 acres. There's already a restaurant there, dock, and then we have another one. It's about 300 acres right over there by the Ambergris Lagoon that I pointed out to you earlier. So a lot of opportunities, folks. We would love to talk to you more about what your interests are, and then help pair a property that is right for you. The one thing I want to mention is that financing is not a standard in Belize. So if you are looking for financing, please make sure you're sharing that upfront when you are talking to us, because we want to make sure that we're able to find a property that pairs up with what you're looking for. And it's really up to the seller if they're going to be offering financing or not. So you cannot get financing in Belize on just property. It would have to be through the owner or through the seller. And I do just want to mention, for the Bracelet property here, if you decide to own 2 properties or more, you only need to put 30% down. They are doing financing for you there. So just something to consider. I'd say I would, like I said, if you have the ability to pick up a few parcels there, because then down the line, you will have more flexibility and more options when you're selling to the next owner. So, all right, I see a couple questions coming in from our live group. So great question is, can we land bank on Blackador Key? That would be great, but Leonardo DiCaprio owns Blackador Key, so he's not offering ownership options right now, but a very good question. Thank you. And I'm seeing one over here about the process to own property in Belize. I'm happy to talk to you about that at a very specific level based on what you're looking for, but just a quick overview for everybody. You'll find land, you'll put an offer on it with your real estate agent. They will go to the seller. You guys might or might not have some negotiations. When everything's agreed upon, then you will put down a 10% deposit into escrow. Make sure that all of the titles check out. You can do a land survey if you want, just to make sure of the square footage and exact measurement of the parcel, and you can see exactly where the stakes are laid out. And then from there, once everything checks out, then you will put down the remaining balance that was agreed upon. And then once if you are financing, once the property is paid for in full, that's when you will apply for your title. Usually if you are financing with a seller, they'll hold on to the title until you pay in full. So hopefully that helps. I have it laid out with a lot more detail. You can always reach out to us, info@Luna Realty Belize, info@Luna Realty Belize, and we'll get those details to you. All right, everyone, thank you so much for joining. We really appreciate it, and have a fantastic day. Feel free to reach out as questions pop up, and we look forward to answering those for you. Bye, guys.